The morning air at Falcon Ridge Military Base was razor sharp and cold, sweeping across the mountaintop facility like a silent warning. Situated thousands of feet above sea level, it was considered one of the hardest training sites in the entire Western Division, a place where the weak broke and the strong broke records. Cadets moved in formation across the gravel field, boots crunching in steady rhythm. They were exhausted, bruised, and already drenched in sweat despite the cold. Today was different, though. Today they were being evaluated by someone new, someone nobody had seen before. Her name was listed on the whiteboard roster. No one had met her during orientation. No instructor had introduced her. She simply appeared in the lineup that morning, wearing the same fatigues, same boots, same expressionless gaze. To the cadets, she looked like nothing special. Small, lean, with a quiet confidence that none of them recognized. Of course, that meant one thing in the minds of the loudest trainees: an easy target. Cadet Briggs elbowed his buddy Cole and whispered loudly enough for half the platoon to hear, "Check out the new girl. Bet she cries before noon." Cole smirked. "If she can't keep up, that's her fault. Should have joined the admin corps." Briggs snorted. "Or the kitchen staff." Laughter rippled through the formation. The woman didn't react, didn't turn, didn't blink. Her name tag simply read, S. Rivers, Cadet Dawson, the only one in the platoon with actual military discipline. Frowned at the others. "Knock it off," he muttered. "You don't know anything about her." Briggs rolled his eyes. "I know enough. She's tiny." Cole added, "Probably can't even climb the rope wall." They snickered again. Dawson shook his head. "Strength isn't always size. Don't underestimate her." "Watch me," Briggs said smugly. The instructor arrives. A steel door slammed open, and the main instructor, Master Sergeant Kieran, stormed into the yard. His presence alone could silence a riot. "Listen up," he barked. "Today's evaluation involves three components: endurance, elevation, and emergency response protocol." The cadets straightened instantly. "And to test elevation response," Kieran's continued, eyes narrowing, "you will all complete the rooftop movement assessment." Briggs glanced at Rivers again. "Rooftop," he whispered to Cole. "She'll freeze up there." But Kieran's wasn't finished. "Oh, and one more thing," he said. "One cadet has already been selected to demonstrate the drill." Cadets looked around. Rivers stepped forward. They burst into muffled murmurs. Briggs nearly choked. "You're kidding her?" Cole chuckled, shaking his head. "This is gonna be good." Rivers stepped forward, boots firm, eyes calm. Kieran's pointed at the nearest fire escape ladder. Up, she climbed without hesitation. Her movements were fluid, efficient, quiet, like someone who'd been climbing military structures her entire life. Briggs frowned. "Probably practiced," he muttered. "Doesn't mean she can handle the jump." The rooftop. Rivers reached the top and stepped into the open, windy rooftop. The mountain wind was fierce here, enough to discourage even seasoned soldiers. The cadets below watched eagerly. Briggs cupped his hands around his mouth. "Don't look down, princess." Another cadet laughed. "Bet she faints." Rivers didn't respond. She walked calmly toward the very edge of the roof, about 35 feet above the training pit. The wind whipped her hair across her cheek. Her gaze focused straight ahead, not on the drop, but on the horizon. Kieran stood below with a stopwatch. "You will demonstrate Omega drop protocol," he called up to her. "Rooftop movement, simulated escape, then controlled descent." The cadet smirked. "She's dead. No way she jumps. This'll be hilarious." Rivers crouched slightly, adjusting her center of gravity. Briggs laughed from below. "Hey, try not to die. We don't want to fill out paperwork." Rivers looked down at him for 2 seconds, just two, and Briggs felt a strange chill. Her eyes didn't look scared. They didn't look angry. They looked experienced, as if she had done this 100 times. Kieran's raised his arm. "Rivers, on my signal." Briggs nudged Cole. "Watch her freeze." Cole grinned. "She'll back out, guaranteed." Kieran's blew the whistle. Rivers didn't hesitate. Not for a breath, not for a blink. She sprinted forward. Not like a cadet, not like someone trying to prove herself, but like a professional. Her boots pounded the rooftop. Her arms swung powerfully. Her stride was confident, stable, explosive. The cadet's eyes widened. "What the? She's really gonna jump?" Holy. Rivers reached the edge and launched herself into the air. No flinch, no scream, no hesitation. For a moment she was suspended, a silhouette against blue sky, arms extended, legs tucked in perfect airborne form. Then she dropped cleanly off the rooftop. Cadets gasped. Cole shouted, "She fell." Briggs yelled, "Is this HE crazy?" But Kieran's didn't move an inch. Instead, he muttered under his breath, "That's my seal." A split second later, the cadets saw it. Rivers was attached to a perfectly concealed harness and drop line, a controlled descent device used in advanced infiltration drills. She grabbed the line midair, twisted her body with professional precision, and descended smoothly, slowing herself to a safe, clean landing in the pit. Her landing was flawless, not even a stumble. Cadets stood frozen, mouths open, eyes wide. No one spoke. Rivers dusted off her gloves and glanced up. Briggs swallowed hard. Cole whispered, "What is she?" Kieran stepped forward. "Cadets," he said loudly, "allow me to introduce your evaluator for the week." Rivers stepped forward, expression unreadable. "This is Lieutenant Commander Sara Rivers." Dead silence. Kearns continued. 10-year Navy SEAL veteran, special reconnaissance, Halo team leader, instructor of high-altitude insertion techniques. Every cadet's jaw dropped. Rivers crossed her arms behind her back, posture perfect. "And she," Kearns added, glaring at Briggs, "has more combat hours than the entire lot of you combined." Briggs looked as if he'd swallowed his entire tongue. Rivers scanned the group slowly. Her gaze paused just briefly on the cadets who mocked her. Their faces burned with shame. Rivers finally spoke. Her voice was calm, low, controlled. "Next time you judge someone," her eyes hardened, "make sure you're standing at the edge of the same roof." Cadet Briggs had never felt smaller in his life. A moment ago, he had been smirking, laughing, nudging Cole like a schoolyard bully. But now, after watching Rivers leap off a rooftop with the confidence of someone who thought gravity was optional, his bravado had evaporated completely. The rest of the platoon stood frozen, stunned into silence by the truth. The woman they mocked, the one they called weak, the one they told to try not to die, was a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy SEALs. Not just any SEAL, a specialist, a leader, a legend. And she had heard everything they said. Rivers' first words as instructor, she stood before them in the training field, boots planted firmly in the dirt, mountain wind whipping her hair across her cheek. Her gaze swept across the platoon, sharp, calm, without a drop of anger. But something in her eyes made every cadet's stomach tighten. "Cadets," she said in a steady voice, "this week you're under my command." Briggs swallowed hard. Cole stared at the ground. Even Dawson, the only one who hadn't mocked her, stood straighter than usual. Rivers continued, "I don't care how hard you can hit. I care how well you can think, survive, adapt." She stepped closer. "Mockery doesn't make you stronger." Another step. "Humility does." Briggs felt her words hit like a punch. Cole's face flushed deep red. Rivers' voice softened, but somehow that made it even harder to hear. "You assumed I was weak because of how I look. You assumed wrong." She turned toward Briggs first. Cadet Briggs stepped forward. He looked like he wanted to dissolve into dust, but he obeyed, legs shaking. "Yes, Lieutenant Commander," he croaked. She stared at him for a long, uncomfortable moment. "What was it you shouted earlier?" she asked quietly. "Something about hoping I wouldn't die?" The platoon held its breath. Briggs stuttered. I didn't mean." Rivers raised a hand. "I'm not here to humiliate you," she said. "I'm here to make you better." Briggs blinked. "But you need to learn something all warriors learn eventually. Respect is earned only when given." Briggs' throat tightened. He nodded. "Yes, ma'am." Rivers looked him up and down. "You have potential," she finally said. "If you stop trying to look strong and start trying to be strong." Briggs inhaled sharply. No one had ever corrected him like that, without yelling, without ego, just truth. Rivers stepped back. "Fall in. The true test begins." "Today," Rivers announced, "you will complete the elevation response course." Cadets stiffened. Everyone knew about the course. Few had ever passed it. Some refused to attempt it. It involved rooftop movement, rappel response, blindfolded navigation, emergency extraction, simulation, a final leap into a safety pit. Rivers continued, "You will perform. It impairs your partner's survival, depends on your clarity and discipline." Briggs elbowed Cole nervously. "Dude, she's gonna destroy us." Cole whispered, "We deserve it." Rivers began calling names. "Cole and Finley, pair up. Reyes and Lynn, Dawson and Miller." Finally, "Briggs, with me." Every cadet froze. Briggs' jaw dropped. "With you, ma'am?" Rivers nodded. "You mocked me the loudest. You'll learn from me the closest." Briggs nearly fainted. Starting the elevation course, pairs moved through the course with varying success. Cole nearly fell off the first ladder. Reyes made it across the beam like he had wings. Dawson commanded his partner with perfect calm. Rivers and Briggs were last. She stood beside him at the starting platform. "Cadet," she said calmly, "you will follow my instructions exactly. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am." "You will not question. You will not hesitate." "Yes, ma'am." "Good move." They climbed a ladder to the first rooftop. Briggs' legs shook violently. "Cadet," she said, "breathe." I'm fine," Briggs stuttered. "You're not," she said, "and that's okay. Fear keeps you alive. Panic kills you." Briggs froze mid-step. Rivers crouched and pointed to the beam they had to cross, a narrow plank stretching between two rooftops with a 40-foot drop beneath. "You were so eager to see me fall," she said quietly. "Now you understand the height you mocked." Briggs swallowed. "Ma'am, I don't think I can do this." Rivers studied him carefully. "Briggs, you can, not because you're fearless, but because I'm right here." He breathed shakily. "Now step." He stepped slowly, clumsily, heart pounding, eyes watering. Halfway across, he froze again. "I can't." Rivers' voice cut through the wind like steel. "Briggs, look at me." He did. "You're not walking alone," she said softly. "You're walking with every lesson you've ignored until now. Trust them, trust yourself." Briggs lifted his foot, took another step, and another. Finally, he made it to the other side. When he stepped onto solid rooftop, he gasped with relief, but Rivers didn't let him celebrate. "That was step one," she said. "Now step two." The descent drill. They stood at the next edge, the same rooftop Rivers had jumped from earlier. Below them, cadets watched nervously. Briggs' legs trembled again. "Ma'am, I'm not like you. I can't jump off this." "You're not jumping," she said calmly. "You're descending, controlled like a professional." She handed him a sleek rappel harness. "Put it on, I'll guide you." Briggs looked at the rope, looked at the ground, and then looked at her. "Why are you helping me?" he whispered. Rivers paused. No answer came immediately. Finally, she said, "Because the things you mocked me for were the things I had to fight my whole life, and I won't let anyone go through that alone." Briggs felt something shift inside him. Respect, shame, gratitude, all tangled together. He put on the harness. Rivers secured every strap with expert hands. Then she placed a hand on his shoulder. "Briggs, you will descend and you will succeed, because failure isn't the drop, failure is refusing to try." Briggs exhaled. "Ready?" she asked. He nodded. "Now step backward off the ledge." Briggs' voice cracked. "Ma'am, I'm scared." "So was I," she said softly. "Before every mission, fear isn't weakness. It's fuel." He took a deep breath and stepped off. The rope tightened, his weight settled, his descent steadied. He wasn't falling, he was lowering, and with every controlled slide of the rope, the cadets below erupted in cheers. "Come on, Briggs, you got it. Look at him go." He reached the bottom safely. When Rivers descended beside him a moment later, he looked at her with awe. "Ma'am," his voice broke. "Thank you." Rivers nodded once. "You earned this, not me." The final challenge, saving a fallen cadet. With the full platoon gathered again, Kearns announced, "Final challenge. Emergency extraction. You have 5 minutes to locate a fallen cadet and bring them to safety." The fallen cadet was a dummy placed somewhere in the facility. Most cadets panicked, ran in the wrong direction, argued, wasted time, but Rivers stepped forward. "Briggs, with me." He followed her instantly. She mapped the facility mentally, analyzing wind direction, terrain, and likely placement. Within 90 seconds, they found the dummy lodged under debris. Briggs cursed. "It's heavy." "Then lift from your legs," Rivers instructed. Together, they freed it. Together, they carried it. Together, they crossed the finish line. First, Kieran stared at them with rare approval. The ceremony later that evening, cadets gathered in formation as the sun dipped behind the mountains. Kieran stood before them. "Today," he announced, "you learned a lesson you'll never forget." He gestured toward Rivers. "This woman is one of the most decorated soldiers I've met. Some of you thought she didn't belong here." Cole and Briggs lowered their heads. Kieran's continued. "She taught you humility, discipline, and courage, and one cadet in particular showed tremendous growth." He nodded at Briggs. Cadet Briggs stepped forward. Briggs did, heart pounding. "You were arrogant," Kieran said, dismissive. "And wrong," Briggs nodded, ashamed. "But today you listened, you learned, and you improved." Kieran's gestured to Rivers. Rivers pinned a small badge on Briggs' uniform, the Falcon crest, awarded only to cadets who demonstrate major transformation. Briggs whispered, voice shaky, "Thank you, ma'am, for not giving up on me." Rivers nodded. "You have the heart of a soldier, Briggs. Now earn the rest." The final words as cadets dispersed, Dawson approached Rivers. "Ma'am," he said respectfully, "you changed this platoon." Rivers looked across the facility, watching Briggs help Cole down a ladder, hearing Ray's praise for completing her run, seeing cadets work together instead of tearing each other down. "I didn't change them," she said softly. "I just showed them who they could be." The wind swept across the mountains, powerful, sharp, and alive, just like her, just like the cadets she trained, just like the future soldiers they would become.